moving in a kind of midline direction, moderate direction down the middle sort of thing.
Right, but it's a direction. Is it towards something that we might be able to pinpoint, or is the evolution just sort of, we're trying to make justice and equality and liberty more available to every person? Is that the direction we're headed in? I
think I have a tendency to be optimistic in this one, and maybe even utopian, and to imagine that in the future we'll have a clear idea of people as individuals. It will be less about race or sex or politics or religion, and I'm hoping that we're moving towards a more egalitarian future. And I think that would follow the trends that we can see, even though I think to us in the present it doesn't feel that way. It feels a lot of the time like things are getting worse. Mm-hmm. If you look back over history, human rights have only improved in nearly every area. So I hope that we're moving in the right direction. And what is the right direction? Is there an end point? For me, I see the end point as a kind of a distribution of wealth and an idea of everyone as individuals and as equals. I might just be being wishful. It's so hard to see in the present what the future will look like, but I hope that we're moving in that direction.
Do you think that religion in all its forms and varieties will be completely left out of a future utopian society, or will there still be some form of spiritual expression and some way of... do you think spirituality is intrinsic to human beings, or will we eventually grow out of it, basically?
I think that spirituality is probably a product of the mind being unable to comprehend itself as a biological accident and needing to attribute these meanings to the world. I'm an atheist myself, but I think I have a kind of spirituality. I wouldn't be able to define it for you, but I'm aware of a kind of wishy-washy sense of there being some kind of meaning to the world and of the importance of other, I don't think that religion will feature in the future. I think that religions are a product of old times. They were part of an anthropomorphic development of societies. Need to impose moral values, and that in future we'll be able to establish, and we already do. In my country, it's quite religion. It's really weird to me coming onto YouTube and finding the religious debate, because in Britain it's just not even relevant anymore. We have religion.
Thank God for America.
Debate about it. Yes. I find that absolutely atrocious. I'm appalled when I see the president bless the nation. For me, as a British person, politics and religion are two totally separate things. Politics represents everyone, and you can't impose a religious belief on people as part of your political system. You can't have that on your money. That makes me feel quite sick. Generally, our politicians, they'll try not to even get into any kind of religious debate because it's not seen as relevant to their politics, and I totally agree with that.
Do you think?
I think that we're the future. I think that America will be joining us sooner or later. I think the rise of atheism kind of shows that.
Well,
it's taking some time. People are stuck in their ways, but you'll get there.
That's interesting. It seems to be a developmental process you're pointing out. More maturity, more understanding. Is it possible, though, that atheism isn't really the end game? And maybe this... No, it's not possible?
Absolutely.
Or it is?
No, yeah, absolutely it's possible. I can't... My mind's stuck in the present. I can't find a third option. I've got religion and atheism. I'm trying to find something. I think that they're, spiritual... that's a really difficult question, the one that I'm not sure I have an answer to. I wish I had the foresight to be able to see...
Well, you mentioned earlier the environmental problems that our civilization has created, and maybe just as a possibility, after atheism would come a sort of a Gaian spirituality where we recognize our embeddedness and unity with the rest of the community of life on the planet Earth, right? And
absolutely.
That's a spiritual sort of relationship that we can start to cultivate that doesn't involve transcending or entering any supernatural realms. It just involves getting to know the planet that birthed us a little bit better, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I used to think of myself as a pagan, and I think just because I needed to give a name to it, but it was a sense of the power and communion that I feel when I'm in nature, and a sense of being alive, and
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could argue that there's a kind of spirituality in being in love, or a spirituality in friendship and supporting one another.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I think that's kind of. I suppose that's what I picture with my utopian society is the ability to accept each other and the ability to work together. And I view animal rights as being part of that. The ability to not cause any being that can suffer and feel pain, and the environment. And environmental issues are, for me, quite a big factor. And I think we're quite a diseased society when it comes to the environment, and we're just. Anyway, I'm not going to go off on a long global warming rant, but climate change is right. But
yeah, well, I mean, it's important to talk about this issue, and I think there is a relationship between the Western religious attitudes, as they have traditionally been, Judeo-Christian approaches, and our environmental problems, because there's this sentiment in the Christian religion, especially, that the flesh and earthly realm is basically worthless, and that the whole point is to get up and out of here into heaven. And so we could be with that Jesus guy, and
absolutely,
that I think is a part of that, at least in a metaphysically purer way, was inherited by the scientific tradition. There's still this desire to technologically transcend, and that's what brought us the Industrial Revolution, which is basically what's responsible for destroying the planet. So I think that the problem is that our spirituality has in the past been so oriented towards transcendence rather than immanence, that the transition isn't so much to get rid of spirituality, but to recognize that heaven is on earth, if there is one, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly how I feel about it. I think on a more basic level, the Bible and the Quran and many other religious texts also teach us that we kind of own this, that this is ours, and the animals are there for us to eat. And I think that sense of ownership and things being there for us to use is completely incorrect. And I like to think I've got kind of maybe I can't remember what the PC term is anymore. I know that Native American, I think it's supposed to say first generation American now, but I like to think I have a kind of Native American spirituality about it. I mean, you're only as strong as the environment around you, and without the balance of nature, you're fucked, basically. Am I allowed to swear on the holiday?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yes.
Fuck yeah. Good, okay.
It's
you
relative.
showed up an hour later and drank a bit.
This network is relative to the guest, so we form to you, basically.
Great.
So yeah, branching off into this, what is it? Is it one with nature, Gaia spirituality? Is that what you?
Yeah, it's a Gaia. I would call it a Gaia. I mean, are you familiar with the Gaia theory of?
It's not a word that rings a bell, I have to admit.
Okay, there's an American scientist named James Lovelock, and he worked for NASA, and they were trying to figure out how to discover life on another planet. All the other scientists, besides Lovelock, were saying, well, we got to test the soil and see if there's organic molecules in it. And Lovelock was like, no, let's just look at the atmosphere. If there's a disequilibrium in the kinds of gases that are being produced in the atmosphere, then there's obviously life on the surface, right?
Right, yeah.
And then he started thinking about that idea more and realized that as soon as life emerged on Earth, it began to self-regulate its own temperature and atmospheric composition. So basically the whole Earth is a living system.
Of course, yeah.
And it's a scientifically valid theory that can be tested and has been tested and has so far stood up to those tests. And so it's scientific evidence of our unity, which is usually a spiritual concept, right? So
yeah, that's amazing.
So
that was it. I was just going to say that's fascinating.
I think
I have nothing else to say.
You just turned her spiritual. No longer reduction.
I suppose that's quite a comforting concept, because it means that these instincts that I have, this spiritual feeling that I have, is
validated.
Is environmentally,
scientifically validated.
Right.
Provable, which is lovely.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I mean,
so many of my views are probably completely mentally constructed, and it's always nice when science is on your side.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about earlier. You said that basically human beings have to learn to accept that they are biological accidents, and that is also that's a socially constructed perspective, isn't it?